I'd like to respond to some of the things and issues that they've brought up as negative impacts of the wall. Firstly, when it comes to the cost of the wall, they've thrown out a lot of different numbers on how much that'll cost in terms of like millions of dollars per mile and all those things. A lot of the research I've done shows that completing the wall will cost $3 to $4 billion, even if it costs up to as much as $30 billion or several billion dollars to maintain the security over as it gets broken down by people who are trying to cross and stuff. I think it's really important to look at all these totals as a long-term investment. Everything that we're doing to secure the border can't be tallied up in one big year and made into one big number. Something like building a fence is a multi-year investment. It's an investment in the future and the security of the country, so it should be looked at in terms of at least over the course of 30 years or so, in which case the amount that we're spending annually on the border becomes much smaller and less significant, especially compared to other things that are happening. For example, I have an article found on The Blaze where the alternative press looked into a lot of budgeting stuff over the last 10 years to find where money's being spent, and they found that it said that the Associated Press has been investigating what taxpayers should spend securing the U.S.-Mexico border. The price tag until now has not been public, but the alternative press, using White House budgets, reports obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, found that they tallied it all up and it was about $90 billion over 10 years. So that's including everything, including boots on the ground, other things that they might propose instead of the wall. And so if you're looking at maybe $4 to $10 billion over the course of 30 years compared to $90 million we're already spending over 10 years, I think it's not as significant as he claims that it is. I think it's also important to think about where the money is coming from, and this money is obviously coming from taxpayers. And as we stated previously, most voters in the United States are in favor of building the wall, so most of them would probably say it's tax dollars well spent. He brought up several environmental issues, and while building a wall may cause erosion or it might have other impacts on the environment, you can't really do anything without impacting the environment in some way. And so regardless of how the border is secured, which needs to be done, it's going to have some sort of environmental impact. I have a quote regarding this that I found from Pavement Pieces, which is a website that has a lot of environmental information. It says, Randy Cigarello from the Center of Biological Diversity points out that habitat destruction is more extensive than people realize. He says there's a lot of other land that's being disturbed along with the border wall. And the border is a tiny strip that everyone thinks is so innocuous, but the Border Patrol still has to drive willy-nilly all over the desert to apprehend people. And this operation, the operation support, do more damage than the wall itself. So if we have less wall, we're going to have people doing more things like having to drive around and use trucks more, and the environment is going to be impacted regardless. They've also mentioned that fewer people have been apprehended coming to the United States, and I'd like to just point out that this doesn't mean fewer people, that we're being less effective catching them. The number of people apprehended is representative of the people trying to come in, because we're probably catching a similar percentage that are attempting, and so it's showing that fewer people are attempting to cross the border in those places. Again, they were asking for other things like more manpower and that the border might not be effective. And again, this isn't going to solve the problem in its entirety. But as we've stated, it's a very important problem, and so everything we can do should be done. I have a quote from the New York Times that one border official said, "I don't believe the fence is a cure-all, nor do I believe it's a waste. Yes, you can get over it, yes, you can get under it, but it's a useful tool that makes it more difficult for people to cross. And it's one of the number of tools we have, and you've got to use all the tools." And finally, they talked about most people are coming in to find work, and I don't think that that's an excusable reason to give up security for other reasons. If you related it to, say, air travel, most people fly to get places. That doesn't mean we let the people that are trying to hurt the country while they're flying get away with it, because most people aren't trying to do that. Thanks.